Hi everyone, this is Miss Boos, and this is our next installment of Sideways Stories from Wayside School. Today we're going to be reading Chapter 4, Sherry. Now, if you want to see the first 3 chapters, you can go to the Bear Washington YouTube page and look under videos, and you can see all the chapters of Wayside School. There's chapters 1, 2, and 3 already posted, and this will be chapter 4. All right, so this is the story of Sherry, and I remember reading Wayside School when I was a kid and reading this chapter about Sherry, and I always loved it, and I remembered it until I was a grown-up, and now I'm happy to be able to share it with you. So, this is the silly story of Sherry. Sherry had long eyelashes. She weighed only 49 pounds. She always wore a big red and blue overcoat with a hood. The overcoat weighed 35 pounds. The red part weighed 15 pounds, the blue part weighed 15 pounds, and the hood weighed 5 pounds. Her eyelashes weighed 1.5 pounds. She sat next to the window in Mrs. Jewell's class. She spent a lot of time just staring out the window. Mrs. Jewell didn't mind. She said that a lot of people learn best when they stare out a window. Sherry often fell asleep in class. You could see her there. Mrs. Jewell didn't mind that either. She said that a lot of people do their best learning when they are asleep. Sherry spent all of her time either looking out the window or sleeping. Mrs. Jewell thought she was the best student in the class. One afternoon, it was very hot. All the windows were open, yet Sherry still wore her red and blue overcoat. The heat made her very tired. Mrs. Jewell was teaching arithmetic, math. Sherry pulled the hood up over her face, buried herself in the coat, and went to sleep. "Mrs. Jewell," said Kathy, "Sherry is asleep." "That's good," said Mrs. Jewell. "She must be learning something." Mrs. Jewell continued the lesson. Sherry began to snore. "Mrs. Jewell, Sherry is snoring," said Kathy. "Yes, I can hear her," said Mrs. Jewell. "She must be learning an awful lot today. I wish the rest of you could be like her." Sherry began to toss and turn. She flopped over on top of her desk and then rolled over on top of Kathy's desk. Then she rolled back the other way. Kathy screamed. Sherry rolled out the window. She was still sound asleep. Now, as you know, Mrs. Jewell's class was on the 30th story of Wayside School. So Sherry had a long way to go. After she had fallen 10 stories, Sherry woke up. She looked around. She was confused. She wasn't in Mrs. Jewell's class, and she wasn't at home in bed. She couldn't figure out where she was. She yawned, pulled her hood back up over her eyes, and went back to sleep. By that time, she had fallen another 10 stories. Wayside School had an exceptionally large playground. Louis, the yard teacher, was way over on the other side of it when he happened to see Sherry fall out the window. He ducked under the volleyball net, hurtled past the kickball field, hopped over the hopscotch court, climbed through the monkey bars, sped across the grass, and caught Sherry just before she hit the ground. The people in Mrs. Jewell's class cheered. Sherry woke up in Louis's arms. "Darn it, Louis," she said. "What did you go and wake me up for?" "I'm sorry, Sherry," said Louis. I'm sorry, Sherry repeated. "Is that all you can say? I was having a wonderful dream until you woke me up. You're always bothering me, Louis. I can't stand it." She laughed and hugged him around the neck. So I think Sherry was joking, and she knew Louis had caught her from hitting the ground. Louis carried her back up 30 flights of stairs to Mrs. Jewell's room. That evening, when Sherry went to bed, she was unable to fall asleep. She just wasn't tired. And that's the end of Sherry. All right, guys, keep tuning in, and next time we're going to do Chapter 5, Todd.